Hi guys, welcome back. We all know what it's like to complain about illegal discrimination only to have HR and everybody else circle around and protect our perpetrator. Today I want to share a few things I learned from that experience that some of you may not realize yet. Closing ranks with us on the outside increases their chances of mounting a successful defense, which is, of course, why they do it. And there's no doubt that their collective is stronger than we are. But being a collective also creates some vulnerabilities that I don't think they're necessarily aware of. If we want to beat them, we have to find those vulnerabilities and hit them where it matters. One of the biggest vulnerabilities of any collective is that for it to work properly, everybody has to keep step with each other. And being a part of the collective also created some vulnerabilities for my boss. Their protection came at the cost of her autonomy. So after they came to her rescue, she couldn't just get by with doing whatever she wanted anymore. Whatever she decided to do, she had to run by them, get their buy-in, answer their questions, address all their issues. That slowed her down, and it also constrained some of her choices. For example, when my process started, my boss had promised me that she was never going to reasonably accommodate me. But as soon as HR came on board, she signed a form, giving me every reasonable accommodation that I requested. At least on paper. She never would have signed that form on her own. And around that same time, she stopped doing a lot of the blatantly abusive things that she'd been doing to me all along. She stopped calling me into her office, asking inappropriate questions about my disability. She stopped threatening to fire me every day, and she stopped belittling me in front of my peers. All that made it really clear to me that her new defenders were reeling her in. Instead of just letting her continue to run wild and do whatever she wanted, they put her on a leash and made her keep step with them, which was great for me. Even though my boss had the protection of a lot of powerful people, it cost her some of her power to get it. Seeing that emboldened me a little. Because my boss was my boss, I couldn't just tell her to get lost and refuse to do whatever she told me. But I did stop trying to please her. Instead, I took that energy and focused it on two things: asserting whatever control I could over the situation so I could manage my stress level better, and winning my case. Asserting control can be a little tricky. It's situational, and every situation is different. So I can't tell you how to do it, but I can tell you how I did it. And I think it starts with recognizing what your boss's weaknesses are. My boss had a huge ego. Now, before my complaint, I had never had to ask my boss's permission for much. But after my complaint, if I did so much as attend a lunch and learn without getting her permission first, she'd go off on me and threaten to charge me with insubordination. When I requested permission, she usually just held me hostage by sitting on my request without taking any action at all. Constantly needing her permission and never being able to get it was incredibly stressful. So I had to find a way out of that trap. I did some research. There was no NASA policy that said I had to get her permission every time I left my office. She may have wanted me to get her permission, but I knew I didn't have to. I didn't confront her or argue with her about that. I just stopped asking for her permission, and instead I started sending her emails letting her know my plans. I was still showing respect for her as my supervisor, but I was getting myself out of that trap. And that worked so well that it motivated me to challenge her on some other fronts too. For example, she told me that even though she'd signed that piece of paper saying that she was giving me telework as a reasonable accommodation, she was never going to let me use it. I believed her because I know her. But I didn't let that stop me from asking to use it whenever I needed to. I always sent those requests by email, but she wouldn't answer me back. Instead, she'd come into my office and verbally disapprove my requests. So one day when my symptoms were particularly bad, I decided to get bold and challenge her there too. When she told me she was disapproving my request, I asked her why. And after thinking for a little bit, she told me, "I just don't believe you have enough to keep you busy all day." Normally, I'd have stopped there, but I was being bold. So I told her as politely and professionally as I could, "I disagree. I know what I have to do, and I know how long it's going to take me, so I don't think I'm going to have any problem at all staying busy all day." Being challenged at all by a subordinate was insubordination to her, and it enraged her. The next time I sent an email requesting telework, she jumped on that chance to create a paper trail to my insubordination. That time she put it in writing. "I'm not letting you telework today because I don't believe you have enough to keep you busy all day." After that, her disapprovals were documented. Now, it didn't change her behavior in the moment. I mean, she still didn't let me use the telework. But at my hearing, my AJ noticed all the documentation that I had, and he questioned her reasoning. Ouch, I bet that stung. I think the most important thing is to know who your boss is, know who you're dealing with, and don't be afraid to twist the dials. See what happens. The law says that we have to go through the EEOC process in good faith. Good faith means that we're honestly going into the process because we want to stop the discrimination and we're willing to compromise in order to make that happen. But good faith doesn't mean that we can't think strategically about our case. In fact, we have to. And it doesn't mean that we have to just smile and salute while they walk all over us. We still have rights. And it's okay to ask questions when they violate those rights, no matter how much they try to tell us otherwise. I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care and hang in.